Hey there nerds, it's me, Dr. Jordan Breeding, and as a real doctor specializing in film diagnostology, I have pointed out a lot of movie problems without actually doing much to fix them. Which, to be clear, is my right as an American. But lately, I've been thinking, what if I did the opposite of what the current cultural climate encourages and tried to actually, help? I mean, it seems like a great way to become a communist, but here goes nothing, comrades. A lot of movies share surprising similarities, like how so many movies have the classic people from two different worlds fall in love and become blue. Like an Avatar and Titanic. But what if we use comparisons like this to fix movies, rather than to just make jokes about drowning in frozen water, or how that'd be preferable to watching another Avatar? For example, the first Captain America movie tells the story of an adventuring superhuman trying to stop Nazis from acquiring a powerful religious artifact, while Raiders of the Lost Ark is exactly the same, but on a different continent.
That's what scares me.
That's why a meeting between Steve Rogers and Henry Jones Jr., because remember, Indiana is the name he stole from his dog for some reason.
We named the dog Indiana.
Their meeting would make sense. It could also save the Indiana Jones franchise after the Crystal Skull tried to convince us both that Shia LaBeouf should be the new Indy and that nothing matters and we should just give up on everything happening. Now that clip wasn't from Crystal Skull. It's from the movie Constantine, where LaBeouf gets fatally slammed against the ceiling and floor, which is how most of us wish the Crystal Skull had ended. It's gonna take something huge to help people move on from that movie, but introducing Indiana Jones to the MCU would certainly do that, and it's technically possible because Disney now owns both characters. See? Monopolies are great! You know what else is great? The fact that this crossover would also fix a big non-LaBeouf problem with the Indiana Jones franchise. See, during his adventures, Indy comes across magical artifacts from 3 different religions: Judaism's Ark of the Covenant, Christianity's Holy Grail, and Hinduism's Sankara stones, all of which seemingly prove the existence of a god or multiple gods in the Indiana Jones universe, which is terrifying, because if any of those religions are right about the tenets of at least the fundamentalist versions of their faith, then that means a huge portion of the human population is screwed. Like, I don't even want to think about what happens if the Hindus are right, because I've personally exterminated whole generations of cows, one triple cheeseburger at a time.
Man, I got these cheeseburgers, man!
But if all those artifacts are actually alien weapons, like the Tesseract in the MCU, then all of us and our greasy meat patties are safe. See? I just successfully introduced aliens to the Indieverse without using Shia LaBeouf. It's a win-win, dream come true for everyone.
Just do it!
But how does Captain America fit into this? Well, thankfully, his and Indy's timelines match up perfectly. The final movie in the original trilogy, The Last Crusade, takes place in 1938, and Cap travels back in time in Avengers Endgame to the 1940s to spend his life with Peggy Carter and, bury his deep dark secret about making out with her great niece Sharon. And stuff. Now, if Peggy went on to have the kind of adventures like in her show, Agent Carter, then why couldn't Steve come along? And eventually the two of them could cross paths with Indiana Jones. And then they could kiss! I mean, Peggy could kiss Indy, and Steve could kiss Indy, and all 3 could kiss each other, and then it could be 4 of us if we include me licking the iPhone screen. It doesn't matter. And then after that, they could all go, look for Atlantis or the fabled G-spot or some shit.
Off to find the mythical clitoris.
Surely that'd be more fun than anything Crystal Skull gave us, or whatever is coming down the pike and Indiana Jones sits in a fridge for 2 hours because he got stuck and his joints don't work so good.
Segway! Check out these Raycons, my earbuds. These everyday earbuds with their rubber oil look and sensuously smooth feel are the real deal, seriously. These Raycons offer 8 hours of continuous playtime in case I need to finish another one of these frickin' 2-hour videos. But thanks to their 32-hour battery life, I usually don't have to worry about them dying on me. Even better, if somebody calls me to congratulate me on my videos or my winnings file, all I have to do is press a button to answer their stupid call. Because these bad boys have a built-in mic. So they're perfect for me, but they're also perfect for you, dear listeners, whether it's your own ear holes or the holes of your loved ones. Because the holidays are around the corner. And you don't even have to break the bank to get these bad boys, because they're already half the price of premium brands, even though they sound just as good. So go to buyraycon.com/cracked and use code HOLIDAY, or click the link in the description now to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Even better, you can return them within 45 days to get a full refund. After over a month of sticking them in your ear holes. So just do it. Go to buyraycon.com/cracked or click the link in the description and use code HOLIDAY to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Whether it's for you or your loved one or your cat, I don't know your life. And once again, there's no real segue here, so...
Henry Cavill's stint as Superman probably ended with the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which legend claims Snyder is still working on, adding another minute to it every day.
My name is Martian Milf Hunter.
Did you know my mom?
Your mom's name's Martha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got her good. When you were a young little boy, I hunted her down and I Martianed her.
That's a bummer, because Cavill was legitimately a great Superman. He just never had a chance to show it because he didn't directly square off with the villain that brings out the best in him, Lex Luthor.
Ahoy, ahoy! I did not know you were here.
Technically, Luthor was the villain in Batman v Superman, but to properly explain my thoughts on Jesse Eisenberg's take on the character, I'm going to quote Hamlet here. No! If you want to write Luthor correctly, you gotta make him at least somewhat terrified of what Supes might do, given that he has the power to play marbles with the moon.
Our little blue planet here.
The comic book and animated Lex keep it all locked away under a serious, dignified exterior, befitting the threat that he believes he faces. To Luthor, defeating Superman is a matter of humanity's survival. That's why he does not jump around like a methed up chipmunk when thinking of ways to kill Superman. And, basically he's the exact opposite of Jesse Eisenberg's character.
That is silly.
But rather than just start over, I think there's a way to keep Jesse Eisenberg's character and get a great Lex Luthor while also staying true to the comics. All we gotta do is make Eisenberg a clone of the real Lex Luthor. See, about 30 years back, when Luthor was redesigned for the modern age, he was given cancer because the 90s were edgy and extreme, and it was between cancer and just giving him a hoodie and a skateboard.
You're not going anywhere without your big game liquid slam.
So to cure himself, Luthor transfers his brain into a cloned body that he passes off as his illegitimate ginger son, Lex Luthor II. He even kind of looks like Eisenberg's character because clearly they buy their wigs from the same mop store. Now, one of Luthor II Genetic Boogaloo's main storylines was him gaining control of an incarnation of Supergirl who was actually an artificial construct, and I'll stop explaining because if I do, we're all gonna retroactively regain our virginities.
And why would we want to weaponize this material?
More importantly, Ginger Lex eventually goes insane, which is also how this storyline could work so perfectly in the Cavill Superman movies. What if the real Luthor faked his death and passed off his deteriorating Eisenbergian clone as his son? That would totally explain why Eisenlex was loonier than a Canadian goose.
Goose? Goose! Goose! Wait, goose!
So let's bring that version back for one more movie and then kill him off with cancer, clone deterioration, or the space herpes he got from Doomsday, and then introduce the real Luthor, played by The Rock. I just saved the entire DCEU. You're welcome, Warner Brothers.
Well, I require
currency transaction.
Will this amount suffice?
And I wrote a really great joke here about how before he was Batman, Robert Pattinson was a Batman, but now all Edward Cullen does in the Twilight movies is sparkle and pleasure high schoolers like a Quidditch snitch that the secret accidentally got up in one of their holes. And on the subject of holes, Twilight as a whole somehow manages to make even vampires uncool. But what if there was a cool story hiding inside Twilight, like a golden ball with wings inside an 11th grader?
Harry Potter receives 150 points for this list.
Well, it's doable if Twilight just switches focus from the story of a girl choosing between making out with a corpse or a dog to the story of Edward's adoptive father, Carlisle. Carlisle Cullen was born around 1640 to a Christian pastor, and he hunted werewolves and vampires with a team of professional monster hunters, which is a sentence that definitely just got us all pregnant.
He's thirsty.
Eventually, the pre-vamp Carlisle became the leader of the vampire stabbing brigade until he was bitten by one. Now, since this is Twilight, you'd probably expect Carlisle to head to the nearest high school and just romance the shit out of the most boring girl there, but no. Showing some admirable and dramatic character consistency, Carlisle initially tries to commit suicide and destroy the monster that he has become. Yes, this happens in a story that later inspired 50 Shades of Grey, the unsettling BDSM fanfiction that really moistened your mom.
Oh, that's a hell of a sack.
But wait, you might think a character violently struggling to accept who he is isn't an appropriate protagonist for Twilight's teen demographic, to which I say, have you seen Twilight? It's about as suitable for teenagers as novelty breakaway condoms coated in high-grade fertility drugs.
I'll try anything.
Also, don't worry, because Carlisle eventually comes to terms with his fate and uses his newfound immortality to become a medical doctor and save hundreds of human lives over the centuries. The only thing not awesome about that story is how this vampire doctor never changes his last name to Acula. Because even his love life is miles more interesting than his creepy sons. I mean, Carlisle turns his future wife into a vampire to save her after a suicide attempt following the loss of her child. He was unable to bear watching a person whom he previously knew as happy and joyful go out in such a tragic way. So instead, he goes against everything he believes. Then the two fall in love and create a family of vegetarian vampires, thus concluding a fascinating chapter in the life of a vampire doctor whose origins read like a mix between Underworld and The English Patient, both of which moistened your mom.
I've always loved you.
Tell your mom to stop watching TV. Sorry, let's talk about something less uncomfortable, like slavery.
Only if you're comfortable with it.
Speaking of things that moisten your mom, it's a true testament to Johnny Depp's acting abilities that he crafted a pop culture icon out of sexy Captain Jack Sparrow, an obviously stoned jackass from a Disney movie based on a boat ride. More like, yo ho ho, and I'm a moisten your mom, am I right? Anyway, now, Jack is a great, energetic guide through all the weird fantasy stuff in the Pirates franchise, but as a character, he's kind of ill-defined.
This is the tale of Captain Jack Sparrow.
A little moral ambiguity is great, but Jack ventures into straight-up villain territory so many times, you never get a sense of where he truly draws the line, which makes it difficult to take him seriously as a protagonist. So, let's firmly establish the exact depth that Jack won't sink to really anchor his character. Then, once we get a proper feel for his motivations, he can go back to gesticulating like a blindfolded man feeling his way out of a booby museum.
He wrote down where to find all the boobs in the museum. Viking boobies. Yeah! Eskimo boobies. Coming real soon. It's an embarrassment of boobies.
The weird thing is, the movies already drew that line. They just never actually showed it to us. In a deleted scene from Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, we see Cutler Beckett, the governor of the villainous East India Trading Company, discussing his shared past with Sparrow. From their short conversation, we learn that many years before the events of the first Pirates film, Jack was working for the EITC until he was trusted with transporting cargo that turned out to be a shipment of slaves, and instead of delivering them, he set them free, simply telling Beckett,
People aren't cargo, mate.
Suddenly, Jack Sparrow goes from a morally ambiguous asshole to, at the very least, not a complete monster. He says it in a kind of sad, matter-of-fact way, almost as if he's explaining to another person that water is wet, which he would know, because he's a pirate. And they do water. And we learn that this is the thing that caused Sparrow to be branded a pirate. He turned to a life of crime partially because of his strong moral fiber. For all the shitty things Jack Sparrow might do, he draws the line at selling humans, which is not the highest of bars to have to hurdle to be a good person, but it's at least a bar. And without that scene, the only bars in his characterization are the ones that he passes out drunk face first into toilets in. And it was cut. This would not only be a great basis for bringing the character back in the 400th movie or whatever they're rebooting next, it would be sort of historically accurate. Some of history's most famous pirates, like Black Caesar, were actually ex-slaves. And true, they already did that in the Star series Black Sails, but nobody watched that, and Disney will own it eventually, so why not just take the whole slave angle and use it to reboot the franchise? And since those movies take place in the 1700s, it would be possible for Jack Sparrow to also run into Carlisle Cullen, and why the hell not? A time-traveling Captain America and his friend Indiana Jones, and then they all join forces to fight a time-displaced Lex Luthor, played by Dwayne Johnson, and then at the end, they could all sail off into the sunset on your mom's collective moistness.
Wait. What's the game?
And we should probably just end it there.